Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another Babblers video. My name is Zero, and this is the first of a series of crafting guides for 264 item level epics. This one will be for blacksmithing recipes. Before I begin, please remember to subscribe and follow me on Twitter so you are always up to date on the latest Babbler guides and other great content, and welcome to the Babbler family. With all that out of the way, let's begin. 264 plate epics are some of the toughest types of gear to farm for. This stems primarily from the requirement of Titan steel, which on a server of 12k plus is a real pain to acquire. The very first items you will need, and will need a lot of, are eternal elements. For plate gear, eternal earth, fire, shadow, and water are all required. Eternal earth are by far the most needed of the bunch. Generally speaking, if you are farming for your titanium by scouting veins, you will pull up loads of eternal earth along with it. So while eternal earth is certainly the most needed resource by volume, farming specifically for it may be a waste of time if you are going for the titanium as well. That being said, if you need a few farming spots for the material, the Earthbound Reverence and Chilled Earth Elementals and Wintergrasp are reliable ways to gather crystallized earth. If those locations are being disrupted by PvPers or the Wintergrasp battle, you can alternatively farm them up off Brittle Reverence near the frozen lake behind Dunniflin, or from Lifeblood Elementals near the Lifeblood Pillar in Shulzar Basin. These mobs all have at least a 25% chance to drop and are abundant enough to farm. Eternal Fire is also heavily used as it is needed to smelt Titan steel. Like Earth, some of these drop from mining nodes, but not nearly at the same rate. Farming these can be tricky since the farming spots are limited. The most obvious spot to farm these is the Cauldron of Flames in Wintergrasp, but in my opinion, this is not the best spot to gain Eternal Fire. First off, the Cauldron of Flames is heavily contested due to the Wintergrasp dailies. This makes confrontation with the opposite faction likely, as well as competition with your own faction. Instead, going to Frostflow Deep is a much better option. Wailing Wind spawn here, and although they do not look like fire elementals, they have high drop rates. I would estimate around 75%. Contrary to online claims that in patch 3.3.5 the drop rate was nerfed, I can claim from personal experience that a full clear will net you around 2 Eternal Fire, and a full clear takes less than 5 minutes. There is also competition here as well, but much less than the Cauldron of Flames. And if you can even catch Frostflow Deep empty for 10 minutes, you can put a dent in your Eternal Fire quota. Eternal Shadow only drops in a few places in all of Northrend. The most obvious is in Wintergrasp here, and personally, I have never had too many issues with competition when farming there, and the drop rate is excellent. If, however, you have to go somewhere else, the only other place to go is in Northern Dragonblight and Frostmourne Cavern, where you can kill Deathbringer Reverence. These guys are low level 70, so their drop rate is only at 18% as opposed to 99% for Shadow Revenants and 26% for Wandering Shadows in Wintergrasp. Because Eternal Water is only farmed for one item from blacksmithing, I will pass by this one quickly. Water Elementals in Wintergrasp drop plenty, and the area that they spawn in is great enough that competition typically isn't an issue here. If you need another spot during a Wintergrasp battle though, the plain just above the Maker's Perch in Shulzar Basin has water elementals there as well, and also has some mobs that drop Eternal Earth as a bonus. Titan Steel is very expensive and a pain to farm. They require an Eternal Shadow, Earth, and Fire per smelt, as well as 3 titanium bars. You already know how to farm the Eternals, but the titanium itself is a different story. You must find titanium nodes, and since only 3 zones in all of Azeroth actually can spawn them, coupled with the fact that the server frequently hits full capacity, you can imagine how difficult it is to acquire the material in any kind of swift capacity. Here's a map of a route that I have found is best to run when searching for this elusive ore. Although I will say that oftentimes it is best to only farm titanium as a means to supplement your titanium needs. Farming all the titanium for your plate gear is so time consuming, it literally is better to just run quests and buy the titanium from the auction house. Don't spend ludicrous amounts of time searching for titanium. Lastly, you will need Primordial Serenite. As if Titan Steel wasn't punishment enough to grind for, the added requirement of Primordial Serenite is typically what kills the drive to craft 264 items. There are only 3 ways to acquire the substance, and for a non-ICC geared toon, there really is only one. You can buy them for 23 Emblems of Frost per Primordial, an option best left for those who are gearing alts and have a main who no longer needs his Frosties for set pieces. They also drop off ICC bosses in the 25 normal heroic and 10 heroic versions of the raid. Once again, if you aren't raiding ICC, this method is unavailable to you, and even if you are, primordials are almost always reserved by pug leaders or guilds that are running the instance, so rolling on them is almost never a viable course of action. The final way to obtain them is to buy them with gold. The exact amount that they cost fluctuates, but a typical average is around 1,000 gold per Primordial Serenite, and each 264 piece requires either 5 or 8 primos. If you are lucky enough to have a guild that you have invested your time and social life into, you may be able to benefit from those connections. One guild I was in had a rule that you could buy them from the guild bank at nearly 50% of the market cost at a limit of 2 per day. Another guild I was in straight up gave me 7 primordial serenite so that I could gear a tank that they wanted for raids. It all depends on the guild, but pursuing those avenues for getting your primos may be the best option if you aren't ICC ready yet. Just remember that if your guild does help you out in this way, that you return the favor in kind later down the road, and always be contributing. That does it for this crafting guide. I do intend on making the other gear types in the future, so once again be sure to subscribe so as to always be up to date. Also, please check out my other content as well, since I really enjoy making videos apart from the guides too. So thank you everyone for watching. My name is Zeru, and this is The Babblers.